Hey you guys, I'm Christina. This is Say More, a podcast about the kinds of conversations that invite us to go deeper. I'm a therapist, and this is a space for honest reflection on what shapes us, from early unconscious patterns to how we actually change and grow. Some episodes explore theory and ideas, and others are real, reflective talks with therapists and other people I love talking to. People who are on the path or simply curious about growth and healing. At times, I follow what's alive, letting topics emerge from my own life, my guests, from sessions, or from whatever's been coming up lately. If you're drawn to depth without needing perfection and want a space that holds both pain and possibility, you're in the right place. I'm really glad you're here. Let's say more. In this episode, I'm joined by my longtime friend, the brilliant and hilarious Kevin DeBacker, as we dive into his creative journey from chasing dreams in New York's comedy and improv scene, think Amy Poehler and Tina Fey, to now crafting seriously creative micro-stories and flash fiction that blend magical realism and raw emotional processing. Kevin's life and work philosophy is all about following the fun, a mindset we both share, going with the flow and letting curiosity and joy lead the way. We talk about how that playful spirit has carried him through the evolution from improv and comedy into writing pieces that both challenge and satisfy him on a deeper level. Along the way, Kevin opens up about growing up in a cult-like evangelical church and how those experiences shaped his comedy and writing, and the complex journey of coming out and embracing his identity fully. Plus, we reflect on 20 years of friendship and the rare kind of playfulness Kevin always brings out for me. Enjoy. Hi, Kevin. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Santa Barbara. It looks like it's sunny down where you are in Pasadena.
Yeah, it's like I think it's probably in the 90s, although I'm inside
Whew,
and it's 74 degrees, which is nice.
that is nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have you on this podcast because one, we go way back. We've known each other for 20 years, I think, and have maintained a really great friendship throughout all those years. And yeah, I'm really curious about just your work and your life. And so today's just a chance for us to connect and hear more about, your work. So you are a writer.
Yeah. Well, before we dig into that, I was just thinking about how we connected when we first met. We were surrounded by a lot of fun and a lot of creative people, and we were always just laughing and joking around. But there was definitely moments where I really felt connected with you because we would sit down and have like deep, real conversations. And I wasn't really having that with a lot of people before you. So
Mm,
I felt, oh, like this is a really cool connection. I want to get to know
mm.
Christina more. So I was really glad that we ended up living together and that we could both have a lot of fun, but also sit down and like talk about cool things. Yeah, so that was a really fun time. So wanted to talk about like my writing, right? And sort of discuss how the process and everything. I really enjoy writing a lot, and I have found that I read a lot of short stories and flash fiction and even microfiction, and I've even written a book. But throughout this process, I feel like so much of it is just getting out inner feelings and like stuff from my past. Like a lot of my characters, I've noticed, have themes with sort of broken homes and
Hmm.
a lot of women characters. Because growing up, I was surrounded
Hmm.
by a lot of women in my life. My mom and dad separated, and my mom moved in with another woman and they raised me. And now when I look at my writing, I'm like, oh, that cult script I wrote, that's about a lot of, single moms.
Hmm.
And then there's always like a single mom pattern throughout a lot of my writing.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Just a little bit more of the background. So we were living with and surrounded by a bunch of improv comedian type people. So Kevin has always also been in that world as well. So comedy, and you used to do shows at UCB, Upright Citizens Brigade. And
Hmm.
so I kind of view, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like your writing to be kind of almost an evolution from those beginnings of creativity and being in community and I love I'm so curious about your process of moving from maybe strictly comedy and performing on the stage to kind of becoming more of a writer. And it sounds like having more personal elements that you kind of weave into short fiction stories now.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I moved to New York City right out of college, I really focused on comedy. I was really chasing Amy Poehler, and I was obsessed. And she was performing a lot at the Upright Citizens Brigade in New York. So I was like, oh, this is what I want to be. And then it quickly turned to like Tina Fey. No, I want to be Tina Fey. Like she's amazing. She's a writer, and I just pursued it hardcore and found that comedy just brought me so much joy, and it was like a blast. It was almost like being in college again, going to doing UCB New York at that time. That was back in 2005 when it was still not, it wasn't super big yet. And that just, I remember being like, this is so fun. I'll always write comedy. It'll never be serious. It's always going to be funny. And then as I got older, the stories started to get a little bit more serious, and I really enjoyed it. I think in life I've always been like, follow the fun, follow the things that you enjoy. And I never wanted to be stuck being like, I'm only this. I only write half-hour comedies for TV. I started being like, oh, I want to explore writing short stories. And then some of those stories started to get more serious and more apocalyptic, which is my current phase. It's really fun to write about characters who are living in worlds that are nothing familiar to what I am used to. I think there's always something interesting about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not entirely sure why there's like that sort of why it switched to sort of more apocalyptic, more serious tones, but I'm currently enjoying it a lot. And I feel like a lot of the writing, like one of them that I'm really proud of is a story about a character who's dealing with his mom. You find out later he's grieving his mom's death. And so I think that I could have explored that in comedy, but it feels way more natural to explore it in a more serious tone. Yeah.
Would you say that you still have an interest in purely comedy, or are you fully kind of focused now on this new form of writing?
I think I'm more fully focused on this. I find it to be a lot of fun. I also find it to be really challenging, and I think I've always tried to find things that are more challenging. Once, not that I cracked the comedy code because there's people way funnier than I am, but I feel like I exhausted my abilities there. I was like, oh, okay, I figured out how this kind of works. And
Yeah.
then to tackle something that's more dramatic has always a little bit more of a challenge. It has a lot more heart and feeling into it. And I think that's why also I'm chasing it. I know that that's how it feels right now is I'll be in this space for a while. As far as like going back to comedy, I think that I've definitely tried a few pieces that were not good at all, where I was like, okay, I'm going to write a short story that's funny. And I remember being like, this doesn't feel funny at all. I don't know, there's something about it. It just didn't feel right. So then I've
Yeah.
more focused on the serious tones, and a lot of it I've realized has come out in magical realism stories where there's like a character's going through something that we can all relate to, but there's some sort of magical realism element to it. And that's been so cool and so fun to explore.
Yeah. Can you say more about what that is, like for someone that doesn't know
Yeah.
specifically magical realism?
Yeah, it's like, for instance, the story I wrote about a character who's grieving the loss of his mother. In the world that the story is written in, there are these, I call them sheds. There are other versions of himself that are older that he discovers, and they're trying to talk to him. And basically, it's just shedding sort of every time he sheds a version of himself, it's like he's getting weaker and losing who he is. And so he ends up finding these sheds out in life, and they're suffering too. And some of them want to get rid of him because if they get rid of him, that means their pain goes away. But it has a lot to do basically with him trying to isolate, like, okay, I know what I need to deal with, the grief that I've kind of like been ignoring. And magical realism is that like it's not quite real to what you would see, but it is grounded in reality, if that makes sense.
Like there's components or elements that are not based in reality, but maybe the theme tying it together is like a human theme, like wrestling with
Yeah.
grief and awareness and
Yeah, yeah, and there's another one I'm working on right now that I call it microfusion. It's really short, and this is about how in the future art has been outlawed because it creates too many strong emotions in people, and so
Hmm.
the state has like, okay, we're going to eliminate that. You know, we do not want uprisings. We want our citizens to be docile. So art's been outlawed, and it follows a detective who's trying to find the last art piece of art. And but this art is immersive, like you can actually walk into it and experience and feel the feelings that the person who painted it felt. So that's like
Wow.
sort of, I think it's really fun. I think that like is again
Hmm.
following the fun of writing. Like, oh, this is really cool. Like you can go into the painting. What would it be like if you could do that? So
Mm.
that's what magical realism is.
Yeah. You got excited when you were talking about that, like that
I
it's
know.
fun.
It's really fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun world to be in. I'm really enjoying writing those it's a series.
Yeah. Say more, like, tell me everything that's fun about it.
I think it's just, well, it's really fun because it's so short. And sometimes writing,
Mm.
you can feel so bogged down to be like, I have to write a book. And then you never want to start it because it seems so impossible to finish. And then even just a regular short story can be quite long and complicated, and you want it to be really good. So then I realized, like, oh, I could write like these 1 to 2 minute pieces. And those seem, they're
Hmm.
way more doable in the sense that it's not going to take a ton of time. I've also not outlined anything. I'm just kind of following the instinct after each episode. What would happen next? What then? What
Mm.
then? So
Yeah.
I think that's been why it's been so fun because it doesn't feel like a lot of pressure to make it perfect. There doesn't feel like it's not a lot of pressure to have this like really long piece that's
Yeah.
cohesive. I mean, not
Yeah.
this is cohesive, but it is like
Hmm.
it's just like not a lot of pressure. Just it's a blast to write.
Because you're building off of, is it like little episodes kind of in like a
Yeah, they're
mini
little
kind of
micro
way?
episodes. Yeah. They're like each 1 to 2 minutes long and they come out every week. And so I think it's also a way to feel like, or to be creative, but not
Hmm.
feel overwhelmed like you have to churn out something that's like 15 to 20 pages.
Yeah.
And I think it's more accessible to a lot of people.
Yeah. Our attention spans are not very long these days.
Oh, yeah, mine's terrible. Even when I'm working on like a writing piece, I'm like, oh, what's happening on the internet? Oh, I should check the news. Oh, I should go over here. Like it's constant, you're constantly getting distracted.
So how do you work with that? How does that work with your writing?
I sort of at times embrace it. I go because I remember I watched like some TED talk with a creative guy, and he was like, every 15 minutes I'm distracted, but he ended up doing all these really cool things. He yarn bombed, which was like, have you heard of that? Where he created a bunch of yarn things and like put them around trees.
Oh, yeah.
He
Yeah.
was like a yarn bomber, and then he learned a
Nice.
language, and then he wrote a book, and he was like, he was talking about how he's so distracted, and people are often like, oh, I can't finish anything. I'm always distracted. And he was like, every 15 minutes, I would take a break and look at something. So I try
Mm-hmm.
to do that too, where I'm like, oh, okay, 15 to 30 minutes, I focus, and then I'm allowed to
Mm-hmm.
like play around and look at things.
Yeah. So it's like a workout. It's kind of like is there a rhythm to it or?
Yeah, there is a rhythm. Sometimes it's so chaotic where you're like, oh my gosh, every like minute I'm looking at something. And that's when it's really bad because you can't get into any kind of flow state. Because I
Mm.
do think flow states are super important. But if you allow yourself 15 to 30 minutes, there's also called the Pomodoro technique, which is big on YouTube. You could type in like Pomodoro technique and somebody has put together an awesome video with a timer. And then every a certain amount of time, it'll like it'll ding and then that's your chance to break and do anything you want, but it
Yeah.
allows you to focus for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Have you ever tried the Pomodoro technique?
You have sent it to me a number of times.
So many times you're like, delete the email. I'm tired of this.
Probably I was letting you know, like, wow, I'm getting nothing done today. Um, I feel like I go to you for, all the tips and tricks that help us with either time management or if I need a timely Oprah quote, like you're my go-to for that. Like small life hacks. Like there's like, yeah, I feel like I don't know if you would identify with this, but it seems like there's like an optimism usually in how
Yeah,
you're
I feel like
thinking
that's
about
from my
things.
mom. Definite
Yeah, let's
optimism in
let's
life.
let's talk about that on the podcast.
Yeah, that
Okay,
like
well, so anyways, you mentioned that there's this theme in your stories around, the fear of death of your mom and then like these being raised by multiple women and then it shows up in your stories. How is that connection for you? Like, do you write something and then later you have like an insight of like, oh, I didn't realize that was connected to X, Y, and
Hmm.
Z personally?
It's kind of 50-50. There are times where I'm like, start writing and I was like, oh, I didn't realize that this was, again, about some sort of broken family and or like a chosen family situation. And I
Hmm.
realized like, oh, that probably came from my past of just
Yeah.
because, I mean, just to summarize really quickly, it was kind of chaotic and crazy where we moved, I think, 18 times before, I turned 18, maybe even
Wow.
more. And then
Wow.
it was very cult-like at times where it was like evangelical, so churches and praying in tongues and clucking like chickens. So definitely there's that's like a whole
Really?
yeah, that's like a whole nother episode for your
I
podcast.
did not know that.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. And so I think that that sort of resurfaces in my writing sometimes without really knowing it. Sometimes it's a
Hmm.
very conscious choice, sometimes it's very subconscious.
Yeah.
But there are times when I approach something and I think, like there was one story I wrote where I was thinking about something in our family and this dynamic, and I was like, oh, that's really cool and interesting. How can I put a spin on it? And it's about a time traveler who goes back to make peace with his father.
So you're sort of working out these things from the past in your
Yeah,
writing.
yeah. And I think it like, especially since I'm adding like a sci-fi element or magical realism to it, it definitely is a lot of fun to write.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And it's fun in a way that it is like not so serious or like
Yeah.
in terms of being like direct with like processing something as heavy as like either a chaotic childhood or, grieving. Because you keep saying it's fun, and I'm interested in that because you're saying it's fun and you're also like actually, I think, working through something, it seems like.
Yeah, I think I say that because it's not, it's like, I imagine if I just sat down and wrote about my experience with my father and the connection we had, which was, we were not very close. We were more like, I was like a holiday son, or a birthday son. Like we would hang out then. I think that, I mean, some people would probably really like that, if you just wrote like a personal essay about your life. But to me, that's not enjoyable to write. I think I find adding twists to it way more enjoyable. Like, oh, okay,
Hmm.
there's this story about processing my relationship with my father. It would be really cool if that father, let's say, had Alzheimer's and like was starting to lose, his lost a lot of his memories. So the time traveler, the son, has to go back in time to like
Hmm.
catch up before, to get to these earlier times so he can confront the father and say these things. And I don't know that when I say fun, I think that's just more fun to write personally for me than like a straight up, here's something that happened, let's get through this.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
both work. And I think I've read essays of people's lives and been like, oh, blown away and sometimes really
Hmm.
sad about it or really happy for them. But I think finding whatever it feels like for you and your
Hmm.
truth and writing the way you want to write or be creative the way you want to be creative is always the best.
Yeah, I love that. That seems like almost like good life advice too, just like following what really lights you up or
Yeah.
what you find enjoyable.
Yeah.
Were you gonna say
Well,
something?
I mean, I can go on and on about it. I think in general, I think it's whenever I've tried to chase something because I'm like, oh, I should do this because that's going to get more views or more reads or it doesn't feel authentic. It feels more like work
Mm-hmm.
and not enjoyable. And writing is definitely hard work. But when you're chasing something that you enjoy writing, it is also very rewarding and fun.
So it kind of remains like fresh or like you're still in the process that's creative and fun rather than, like you said, like it becomes like more hard work in a certain
Yeah, like
way.
because it's
Yeah.
definitely like work. You struggle at times. You're like, I don't know how to crack this. Like this is so weird. I can't figure out where I'm supposed to go, or it's not quite getting where I want it to be. But it is also once you do crack it, you feel really good and excited. But if I was chasing
Mm.
something that wasn't interesting to me, like how you should wear Crocs, on your feet because it helps your back or something, I would be like, that's like it's so boring to me. I don't know. Also, I think
Mm-hmm.
Crocs are probably really bad for your back, is my guess, but I haven't done the research.
Okay, well, I will write a I'll write a story about how much I love Crocs
Okay,
and I
good.
will make it magical realism. It'll be this girl in a foreign land and
Okay, I'm in. I'm reading this.
she has like a whole collection of Crocs that are like
Yes.
her hidden collection.
Okay.
She's a little bit like Rapunzel, like she's in her little world with her Crocs.
She lets
And
down her little shoes from a castle.
yeah. Ooh, and the shoes have different powers. Like ones are sparkly and like can fly. We like to go places.
Okay,
That's my
I'm on
magic.
board now. I'm actually going to
Okay.
steal this.
But yeah, so anyways, this is a dynamic between me and Kevin that, we just, I think it's very common with comedy people or just, I don't know, creative people. It's just so fun to go with randomness. I don't know if that's what you would call it, but like you are such a playful person and you bring that out inside of me, which is one of the reasons why I love you so much and have been so grateful to have you in my life for so long. But that element of just like letting your brain go where it goes and
Yeah.
how not fulfilling even because it's just kind of alive. It keeps things energetic and feels almost like resourcing in a certain way.
Yeah, I completely love it. And I'm so glad you're on board for it too, because I feel like you're the exact same way. Like we get together and we may have a plan for the day or try to plan out something and it might go that way, but it also we're so comfortable shifting gears really easily and being like, oh, okay, now we're going to play pickleball. Now we're going to go do something else. Like it doesn't feel like everything has to be structured. And
Yeah.
at UCB, they always call that following the fun. So that's why I think I
Oh.
use fun a lot. It's like just follow and embrace it, and stop
Yeah.
trying to control the flow of the river. Just go down it.
Yeah. Have you listened to Amy Poehler's new podcast at all, or you
No,
mentioned her earlier?
is it good?
I love it. She's
Yeah.
great.
I've
Yeah.
been listening to Julie Louis-Dreyfus's podcast, which is also really good. Have you listened to that one?
The Wiser Than Me.
Yeah. Oh man,
She's great.
I don't know if she's done any new episodes, but the stuff I've listened to, I was like so into.
Yeah. What draws you to like a certain comedian or funny
Well,
person, I guess?
I do think a lot of, I will say most of my favorite comedians are women,
Okay.
and I really have gone down, like especially like somebody like Julie Louis-Dreyfus. I think I'm drawn to her because she can be so funny, but so personable, especially in her podcast. And so she's a good listener. She is curious, which I always admire in people. She wants to know a lot about her guests. She wants to, and I'm sure like when she's studying her lines and learning a new role, she's also very curious and trying to figure out who that character is. So I think when I'm looking at comedians, seem to lack an arrogance or like they don't show it, and
Yeah.
they seem humble and they're fun and they're not taking things life too seriously.
Yeah. Do you identify with any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I identify a lot with that. I think that's how I like to live my life. I'm not. I think that's just like, oh, this loops back to us, where like I think we can have a lot of fun, but we can also sit down and have like some deep conversations. And I think that's why I've also felt really connected to you, along with beating you in every sport we play. Just for
He
everybody to
just
know,
had to throw in the dagger somehow there.
just for everybody to know, Christina is so good at everything and beats me at almost everything. So, well, ping pong especially, I cannot win.
Wow. This is the most humble I've heard you my whole life, honestly.
You know what? It's on record. I don't want people to go back and be like, you liar, and then hear this.
I mean, I'll take it. Kevin and I are very competitive with each other, which is very fun.
Yeah.
Not in a like, I don't know. Competition is a whole other thing. That is not a fun thing for me in my life, but feels like we have a fun competition.
Yeah,
So,
competition with fun. Like competition, that's an interesting one too. It's another side tangent. But I do
yeah.
really love to be competitive, but I also recognize how it can be destructive. And I think I learned long ago that I am very competitive, but I also try to keep it super lighthearted and not as serious.
Where do you think you are more serious with competition, or has your relationship with competition changed
I
over time?
know when I'm really competitive and I'm being more serious, it's when I've met somebody else who is very serious. And there's something very satisfying about beating somebody in sports who's so cocky and arrogant. And I think that's when I bring my level up each time. And if they're just here to have fun and they want to socialize, then I bring it to that level too. But there's something very satisfying about beating somebody who thinks they're the best and is not very enjoyable to be around.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I find a lot of satisfaction out of that.
I
But
mean, who
lately in
wouldn't?
my old age, like it's really hard to beat anybody at anything.
You are a very talented pickleball player, tennis player, not so much on the ping pong.
Yeah,
I
well,
always win.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Yeah.
some of those times. I will say I might have been good at one time, but now it's like old man Rusty's coming out to hit the ball.
Old Man River. Well, that leads me to another topic that we had talked about, which was your new phase of life, which, if you want to speak on that, but it's been a beautiful process as, a close friend of yours to watch your journey to fatherhood. If you
Oh
want to just
yeah.
share anything about that.
Oh
Yeah.
man, it's such an exciting topic. I have been wanting to be a dad since I was in my mid 20s. I lived in New York and I would see these moms and dads pulling their kids around on little sleds, during big snowstorms or playing in the park in the summer. And I just remember really wanting it and then not at one point being like, oh, this is going to be really hard as a gay man to make this happen. And then kind of the reality sunk in, like, or like this feeling like, oh, it'll never happen, definitely settled. And then I met such a wonderful partner, and he also wanted the same thing. And he's also really good at saying, okay, we want this. How do we get there? And so it seemed so overwhelming to me because surrogacy is so expensive, and I knew nothing about adoption or foster care. And
Yeah.
then we just started exploring our options and realized, like, oh, okay, foster care makes a lot of sense for us. Let's try this route. And it had a lot of ups and downs, but a really wonderful little girl came into our life named Angelique about 2 years ago. And it still to this day blows my mind. She showed up with a little trash bag, little supermarket bag with everything that was to her name. And she was so tiny because she had been a preemie. And yeah, then through lots of interesting moments, ups and downs, we eventually adopted her
Yeah.
2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just still, I'm still like in shock that it actually happened. Like it feels just so cool. I remember there was one with every call you get from the caseworkers. They always say, like, they give you some information and we would say yes or no, depending on what worked for us. Because sometimes, like, the child might be much older than we wanted or have a lot of serious medical complications that we couldn't quite handle. So we would say yes or no. And like a lot of the yeses just didn't go our way. And I remember there was one, we got all the information about Angelique, and then, like, there's like a laundry list of medical complications they mentioned. But right away we hung up and we were like, oh my gosh, this just feels right. So it was like a very positive, like, this just feels like the right path. So we called back and she came into our house like an hour later. And right
Wow.
now she's so healthy. She has no medical complications.
She is a very healthy, buoyant, fun, adorable little girl.
Yeah, now her big thing is when she doesn't want you around because she's playing with Papa, who's Alex, or Dad, me, then she'll go push, and then she'll push you away, which I think is hilarious.
How is it co-parenting with Alex and having a partner and going through everything together?
I would not be able to do it without him. I was thinking of there's just nobody else who I've ever been with that would be as suitable for this as he is. We're both really good at doing it together, but recognizing that you need some time off. And so I think we're like, okay, because it's exhausting. So there's like a really good managing, like, how are we feeling, and talking about, okay, you need a few hours off, or you need, just a 15-minute break. And he's really good at structure and rules. And I think that I need that a lot. And I think a child really thrives in that as well. But they also thrive in a lot of, like, following the fun. And so we do that a lot.
Are you the fun dada?
I think we're both really fun. I think I'm very much into, like, okay, you want to do this? Let's go do it. Let's go get in a car and, like, find a bounce house or something.
Kind of like more freedom and like you just said following the fun, and
Yeah.
Alex is holding more maybe of the structure, the boundaries. Did I hear that you need that too?
Yeah, I
Or is
think I
it
need
just
that
for
too.
Angelique?
I think that that's why Alex has been really good for me.
He
Is
tamed an
he's
old man.
hey
Hey,
yeah
hey now. No, Alex, that's great.
yeah he's great.
Anything else about like, has that shown up at all, or what has that process like internally been for you? Like this whole sort of foster care to adoption experience, and then, how have you dealt with that? Because I know that there have been a lot of challenges, with the complications with not knowing if it was
Mm-hmm.
going to lead to an adoption and caring for and loving this baby so much. And then just, a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago, it was finalized. How did you deal with that? And then did you use your writing or creativity at all to help you with that?
Yeah, I think that, like, how did I deal with sort of the emotional ups and downs of it all?
Yeah.
There were definitely moments where there's a lot of uncertainty, and you're told as a foster parent that you need to wear, like, your first hat you always wear is just like you're a temporary safe haven for this child, because the ideal situation is to reunite them with family. And that makes a lot of sense in theory and in school, or like when you're taking these classes, and it totally makes sense, but as time goes on and like 7 months go on and 8 months, and you now are really bonded, and then there's like a chance that she might be taken away, and then you start thinking like, okay, that is right, that's your biological family, but then you think about what that life might be like with that family, and it makes you just so sad, thinking, because you just know so much about where she would be going if she went there. And yeah, so that was really difficult. I remember there was one day Alex and I thought she was going to be removed, and so we just like walked around and cried. And then I think eventually we're like, okay, if it's to happen, it's going to happen. And the best way is to just think about it in the sense that we offered her a safe place and a loving home for a certain amount of time. And so I think that once it became way more finalized, there was just like a lot of stress that got relieved from us. It is fostering is a really interesting situation, because there's so much to think about. You have a lot of empathy for her bio family, but in this situation, there was a lot of drug issues involved, and every other kid had been lost to the system. So had been adopted out. I feel like that's like, lost feels like a terrible term, but had been removed and put in another situation that was safer, better. And so, yeah, I think that there's this part of you that does feel a lot for the other side, but you also really start thinking about the child and like, okay, her safety is super important, and being raised in a very loving, safe, secure home is really important.
That is a lot to think about.
Yeah. And then I guess the other part of your question was, has there been any writing involved with these feelings? And yeah, there is. I'm working on a second book that has a lot to deal with the fears of what that was like when you get a child, but the child might be removed, and, that sort of what the emotions that I experienced throughout that. Of course, there's some kind of twist to it, apocalyptic twist. Or there
Okay.
would, yeah.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Well, I was say there has to be. It's gotta be
There has
interesting.
to
Yeah.
be. Yeah, I wonder what that is though. Like I guess I don't want to try to analyze it, but just more curiosity about like your writing and you're processing these hard things and the fears there. And then you add on, well, it has to be an apocalyptic
Yeah, yeah,
event.
exactly. I
Well,
know.
what's the connection?
I
Yeah.
don't know. It's so interesting. For so long I've been really in love those movies, apocalyptic scenarios, sci-fi films. So I think that I don't know why. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, if we're doing a little deep dive, I wonder, because as a child, sorry if my brain's being sporadic, but I'm trying to pull this all together. As a
No, just
child,
go.
I remember going to these large conventions where people were praying in tongues and clucking in the spirit and like getting me to pass out. I don't know if you've ever seen that on TV, where they would like put their hands on you and they expect you to kind of fall backwards. And I remember being there being like, I don't want to fall backwards. Like I don't feel anything. And so I would often transport myself to another place in my mind to
Okay.
not have to deal with the present. And so I remember specifically, I would go to these churches and I would just think about being on the ocean. I'd be like, I'm on the ocean, I'm alone, I'm on a little raft, and like I'm in a water. Like, it was very calm water. And that helped me so much. And I wonder, now that we're talking about it right now, I wonder if that is why I layer on something else. This like detaching from reality and going into another space.
Yeah. What's it
Did you
like to
just
say
pull that
about
out of
that?
me? Did you do that on purpose? Did you sneak that in?
I
That
don't
was
know,
good.
Kevin. Thank you. No, thank you for sharing that, being willing to share that. I mean, I had no idea about like the church and all of that stuff growing up. So that's really interesting link, I think, that you
Yeah.
just made. Yeah. Do you want to say anything else about that whole thing? Or like even like right now, like what was it like just talking about it and having maybe that connection or something?
Well, I think that some people in my family have chosen to be very upset by that experience, and like really it's very traumatic to relive or think about it. For me, I feel like it has for the longest time informed a lot of my comedy, a lot of my writing. I feel like I've of course probably would have loved to have been raised in maybe not with all the heavy religion and cult like experiences, but I think that I've embraced it and been like, well, that's who I am in my past. And I think that I've made a conscious choice to be like, this was something that happened and I want to use it for the longest time. It was for fun and comedy. And then now it's gotten more serious writing. But yeah, I think I've just kind of embraced it all.
Yeah.
Like it's just part of who we are. Everyone has a story of their life, and
Yeah.
good or bad. I mean, luckily nothing terrible happened to me. It was just like weirdness,
It was weird.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
Yeah.
I like what you're saying.
Thanks.
Yeah. What else? What else
Well,
comes to mind?
yeah. Well, what's going on with you? How was your day? Yeah, I know you said your day was good. You went to a cafe when we called each other earlier.
Oh, well, okay. So we may or may not leave this in the pod, but I will answer it because it's so personal. But I just got I got like a scholarship ticket to Burning Man.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I think I'm gonna go solely because my husband is going, and it's not in my realm of, it was not on my list or bucket list, but I want to go and have an experience, like a shared experience with him, and make it work for my own nervous system. And so there's gonna be some planning and stuff for that, but yeah, that's what we were working on. And I just have a lot of like my own creative stuff going on too. I led a workshop yesterday that was actually really great. I've been enjoying doing these podcast episodes, and really it's like I feel like I get so much from conversations, and it's just a nice way to diversify what I do as well.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have to promote you right now because I think that you're so good at challenging yourself, which is Burning Man, like doing something that's different, unique, and you're so good at just tackling things you want. I feel like you've always been that way. Like I want to do this, and then you go for it. And some things may not work, some things work, but I've always admired the fact that you try for things and you don't just like talk about it. You do it.
I do try that
Yeah.
with, varying degrees of emotional freak out.
Yeah. I think
But you
it's,
learn something. I always learn something. So,
yeah, but you put
yeah.
yourself out there, which I think is very admirable. You put yourself in a space to feel vulnerable at times and you just do it. And
Thank
I think you're
you.
kicking butt right now. I'm really
Thanks,
proud of you.
Kevin. I'm proud of you too. Where did you get this shirt? I must say I've been noticing it. It's
Yeah.
like kind of retro.
Well, now that I'm in my mid 40s, I have to make my outfits more colorful so people pay attention. So I've definitely upped my color palette when it comes from like this shirt specifically, I think was actually a gift from a friend in New York. And he often gives me cool things. And in the past, I'd be like, oh, that's a little too flashy. And this one I don't think is that flashy at all. But I love it. So it was a gift from him. And yeah, and oftentimes now even my pants have color. Like I have pink pants, white pants, purple pants.
Wow.
I know I'm either losing my mind or I'm just having fun. Yeah.
You're just having fun,
Yeah.
Mr.
Embracing
Shorta
it.
Cool.
Yeah. Sure
Do
to
you want to
cool. Oh
tell
yeah.
us what Shorta Cool is?
Well, if people are interested in any of any of my writing, I write my stories and I share them on Substack, and it's Shorta Cool. I don't know if it's like .substack, but you just go to Substack and you can find it. And it is just SHORTACOOL. Shorta Cool. And that's where I have that cool detective story that's like a minute long. So if you're like, I don't have time, I also do an audio version of it. So you can just listen to it. That's where I
Nice.
share all my writing.
What's your favorite thing about sharing on Substack, or yeah, what do you want people to hear, I guess, from you on there?
I personally like Substack because they have really cool integrated systems. Like you can write something and you can set up like a podcast and it'll automatically set up an Apple and Spotify podcast. And it's really good at like integrating to other systems. And you get to, let's say I have a subscriber email list. You can decide if you leave the platform to keep that email list. And that's really rare. I think platforms won't want you to take your subscribers with you. Not like I'm going anywhere. And also my 2 subscribers are probably, no, I have more than that. But I think that's why I really like the platform. Is that answering your question of like why I use it?
Yeah. Also, what do you want people to experience reading your stories?
Oh, I think that the thing that I really try to execute, and I don't think I'm always great at it, is like I want people to be in that world and I want them to not feel bored as they're reading. Like I want them to be like, oh, okay, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? And that is a real challenge. I don't always execute that well. But that's why I think that the more I write, the better I get at it. But really trying to immerse, I really want readers to feel like they're in that world. So trying to get more descriptive with what the character's feeling. What are they smelling? What are they, when they touch something, how does it feel? Trying to add those little elements. So I think
Yeah.
as somebody coming in, like hopefully they're living in that world, they're having the experience. Maybe they're feeling sad for the character, or they're having an emotion is welling up inside them,
Yeah.
and they're enjoying themselves.
Yeah. Sounds like making it very real to the senses and really
Yeah.
connecting and getting into someone's experience. So
Yeah.
interesting. I'm just still with this, like you being in this like culty church where people are clucking,
Well, you
and
never talked about that?
I
Wow.
don't, not in depth,
Wow. I
but
mean, definitely, yeah, it was clucking. Like I remember they were using their little feet as if
are
they
they
were
chickens?
like talons. I remember somebody was being like, "We're scratching out the devil," like because the devil's always underneath you. But the more I learned about the universe, I was like, "There is no really up or down. This is really bizarre." And so, but yeah, they were like clucking like chickens to get the evil out.
What was the church?
It was no in particular church, but it was known as evangelical, but it was like non-charismatic or no, charismatic. It's been so non-denominational charismatic. So it's been years and years since I was in that world. But it was very much, yeah, trying. The devil is always the evil, of course. And there's always various means of, not letting the devil, which is always described as a hymn, not letting him understand your prayers. So that's why you prayed in tongues. And that's how I was taught. You prayed in tongues because only God can understand tongues, and the devil cannot thwart your prayers and try to intercept. It was really interesting to
Wow.
me.
Sounds like sci-fi.
Yeah, exactly. And there was also a lot of single women with their kids in these churches, I noticed. There were a lot of men who were either not actively participating with their wives in this, or they were divorced. And so I think that's probably another reason why there's a lot of women in my stories.
Yeah. You mean that like the women were single moms and sort of attracted to this type of evangelical. Why do you think they were?
Okay, I've thought a lot about this. I think that everybody wants a sense of community. And I think when you're suffering, you're usually in the world, at least I was in, it was a lot of poor people. And they really wanted to have something to believe in, a faith that like somebody else had their back outside of them. And so I think that's why like they found a group of other people also going through similar experiences. And you could often be like, okay, well, God has my back. And like, I'm going to receive like a faith check in the mail, and that will cover my rent next month. And so I had heard people say that growing up. Okay, I'm going to
Yeah.
get like a faith check in the mail. And I think that that's what drew a lot of people together, is just like, okay, we're suffering in some way, but we need a higher power like, as long as we know there's a higher power that's got our backs, we can get through these really hard times.
Yeah. That sounds like a general promise of religion.
Yeah.
Lots of types of religions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. That's a complex one.
Yeah. We have to crack that open another time I visit
Another
you.
time. Can I ask one more question?
Yes,
Just
yes.
curiosity is, has like religion, or I don't know if you would call it religious trauma, but has that come up at all in your own sort of like either therapy or something that you feel like was a big issue or something that you had to work through?
That's a good one to think about. Okay, so just to repeat what you're saying, has there been any sort of
Was religion something that left a really bad impact on you?
Oh, I think that right off the top of my head, I have thought that because there is something that comes to mind a lot where because the way I grew up, I think there is this sense of, you don't really have to take responsibility for certain things because God's got your back, and like, you can live life very freely. And I think that is a nice way to live life. But I think that, yeah, I'm really trying, I'm also trying to break this down as we're talking. I think there's
Yeah.
a sense of this, it gets so hardwired into your brain as a kid. It's really hard to remove that wiring of this like outer force, that's controlling everything and protecting you. But I think that in a sense, it can kind of cripple you, and it can cause you to be like, oh, okay, well, I don't feel like getting this job because it doesn't feel right. Or like, I'm not going to move because God told me no. Like, I think that sometimes people use it as an excuse not to do something or to take responsibility for their actions, and like, okay, better their lives rather than just like go out, get a better job, maybe get some more education or push yourself a little bit. I think there's a lot of sense of like, okay, just let God take things. It's okay. So I think that has been something that's been like a challenge that I think I've worked through a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, as in something that's something you had to kind of overcome, or that's something that you see in that community that didn't resonate with you, or...
I think I've had to overcome it. And as I've gotten older, I see it a lot in that community.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of curiosity about religion and like religious trauma. I see that quite a bit in my practice with people, and sort of the rigidity or those morals or the moral code or the rules that people have a lot of shame about, and makes it hard to kind of talk about things sometimes because it's so pushed down, and there's such a rigid moral code around processing anything that's not in line with that.
Oh yeah, it's so difficult too. Like, I'm sure you've experienced this, but with the people you've met, I think that it's just like layers and layers that are on you. You have to peel them off as you get older and you get better at identifying them. You can remove them, but for years they're just there, and you're like, oh, I have felt a lot of shame around this particular thing, around sex or my sexuality, and like it's really hard, I think, to remove those and not feel that way, because even years down the road, I remember I have been out of the closet for a really long time, but years later, I would still feel this like shame about it. So it sticks with you for a long time, especially when you're younger, I think, in that you're more impressionable and it stays with you.
Yeah. Would you be open to just sharing a little bit about what that was like in terms of coming out and how religion might have shaped that, or internally?
Yeah, I think when I came out when I was 22, and I would have come out much earlier, but because of the way I grew up, it was not okay. And I knew my mom would not be okay with it. And so I just kind of like held it in a sense. I tried to say it was the devil's fault that I was feeling. So it was often,
Wow.
yeah. So it was a lot of like, okay, I'm feeling this way, but it's an evil feeling and I'll just ignore it. And then at one point I was like, okay, I'll never be with anybody, and that's okay as long as I'm not with a man. Like so I remember being like, okay, maybe I'll never fall in love or anything, but at least I won't be sinning.
Wow.
Yeah. So it really,
My response is Jesus Christ.
yeah, it really fucks you up.
That's so intense.
Yeah.
When were you able to kind of like overcome that? And did it take a long time, or...
You know what? I remember specifically something that helped a lot is I took a world religions class when I was like 19 in college, in junior college. And for some reason that just opened my eyes up to a lot. I was like, oh, it really made me think a lot about the world as as everything else outside of me. Like, I think when you're in a religious group, you only think what you think is right for everybody. And then I started thinking, oh, there's a lot of other people out there who some don't believe in religion. Some have totally different religions. I think there was just a long unwinding of the thread around me. And I do remember that particular class stuck out. But I do remember questioning a lot of things earlier, too.
Yeah, yeah. That exposure to different cultures or ways of thinking,
Yeah.
I think is really helpful.
Yeah, for sure. It really opened my mind up.
Yeah. Yeah, I have that experience as well, just different cultures and travel. And I think as a teenager, I felt like boxed in so many different ways. But I remember being very curious about other cultures and religions. And part of the reason why I went into psychology, just trying to understand myself and other people.
Yeah.
And I loved anthropology. That was my major when I was at UC Irvine when you
I
were
know.
there.
Did we ever have any crossover courses? Because I was an anthropology
Yes,
minor.
didn't we?
Do we have the
Yeah, we had
music of
like,
anthropology class?
I feel like we did.
And you probably aced it. I think I was just okay at that one.
I think it might have been more boring than I thought it was going to be. Like that was my whole experience of anthropology was like fascinated by cultures, but the study of it for some reason was just not as interesting to me. Maybe it was like I wanted to have an immersion, like I need to
Yeah,
go be in these cultures and then experience it and then, but
that makes sense. Like you want to
yeah.
actually, yeah, have firsthand experiences rather than just studying it in a book.
Yeah. But the study of different religions was very interesting to me at a young age as well.
Oh
So,
yeah, made a huge
yeah.
impact on me as well.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, I think we are. I mean, is there anything else that feels relevant that's coming to mind?
No, it's been really fun. I feel like we've, cracked the case on figuring out why some of my writing is more like magical or mystical or sci-fi. That's been really fun. I've had a
That's
great time
great.
chatting with you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to. I love that we get to continue this conversation and I love our connection. So go check out Kevin on Substack at Short a Cool and we will see you on the next time.
All right. See ya, Christina.
Bye. Thanks,
Bye.
Kevin. Thanks for listening to Say More, a podcast about the kinds of conversations that invite us to go deeper. A mentor once told me that the goal of therapy is to say everything. So my encouragement to you is to stay brave, be curious, and say more. Until next time.